Hey guys, so I just got back from watching Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City. And oh my god, this movie's really bad, guys. So obviously it is based off of the Resident Evil games, which aren't particularly known for their stories, but they kinda didn't have to be. The gameplay was enough to carry those games on their own, while the character interactions themselves were kind of the things that drove you to want to continue. This movie doesn't really understand that appeal. The games are a lot more fun and the characters are a lot better portrayed in there because they don't start the story off knowing everything right from the get-go. In both Resident Evil 1 and 2, you are kind of playing as people who are pretty normal, average day on the job sort of guys, until they are faced with zombies and eventually monsters, and then they figure out the conspiracy behind everything going on. In the movie, the conspiracy is there right from the start. These characters become way less relatable when they basically are pretty much in the know or are in denial about being in the know. And it's a shame because these characters are pretty good in the games, and I kind of took that for granted because without realizing how good they are in those games, I went into this movie and I realized how bad they can be. This movie tries to jam in not only the stories of Resident Evil 1 and 2, but it also tries to sprinkle in some Code Veronica in there. It doesn't dedicate itself to that, which thank God, Code Veronica's stories suck, don't at me. But oh my god, it does not succeed. I feel like Resident Evil 1 and 2 work both as separate things because you become very intimately familiar with the mansion or the police station depending on which game that you're playing. You get to spend a lot of time getting to know this area and interacting with it to the point where it basically feels like you know the layout like the back of your hand. If you need to go to one location, you know where that is and you're able to navigate it, oftentimes without even glancing at your map. In this movie, it jumps back and forth between the police station and the Spencer Mansion, and it gives neither locations the time for characters to get to know them. It doesn't give you the impression that these characters are trapped in here like both games did for their portrayals of the locations. So instead, they just kind of feel like mini set pieces. Also, the action is really bad. People just kind of shooty gun and it's really boring. The only character that got good action scenes was Chris, because his flashlight, or his muzzle flash action scene, there's a scene where the lights go out and then he has to use his muzzle flash while he's shooting his gun to actually see anything, and I thought that was a neat idea that in a better movie could have been executed better. But then that's immediately followed up by him doing some goofy shit with his lighter where he has a knife in one hand and a lighter in the other, and the lighter keeps going out. And there's a zombie right in front of him, but instead of stabbing where he last saw the zombie just a split second ago, he keeps flicking the lighter and it keeps you just see the zombie getting closer and closer, and it's so stupid. And there was another decent scene where in the more claustrophobic scenes of the Spencer Mansion, the zombies are actually really aggressive and it feels like they could actually overpower these characters and take them down, when in the games they were obviously very slow and shambling, but if you got cornered by one, they could basically tank your bullets. So I think that was a good compromise to actually make them feel threatening again. It's just a shame that it is literally one scene, like a 30-second scene in however long movie this was. And the pacing of the story is just fucking batshit. It feels like it's taking its time setting everything up in the start. Maybe a little too much time because they end up showing a lot and it kind of cheapens the impact of the actual outbreak. And then you're just kind of trudging through, every character gets in the know about the Umbrella conspiracy, and then all of a sudden at the end Spoilers, I guess. Trust me, you don't need to care about these spoilers. You really fucking don't. But anyways, if you played the game, you know what happens to William Birkin. He injects himself with a G virus and turns into a giant mutant monster. That same thing happens in the movie, like at the very end of it. But instead of like being a mindless monster that like fell victim to his own ego, instead he's this guy that is like taunting Chris while attacking him. Like he talks even while he's all mutated and shit, and it's so fucking goofy that they took it all seriously. So that was cool. Also, Sherry's in the movie, but like she's barely a character. She's barely worth mentioning. In the games, she's only worth mentioning because in the games she was an actual character. Not even like the best one, but she gave Claire a cool dynamic, like an older sister talking to a younger sister sort of thing. It was cute, it was neat, and it helped motivate Claire to have a reason to get out of there with someone. So, it was cool. In this movie, she does literally nothing. I'm not kidding, she does nothing. I don't know why she's in this movie. They could have taken her out and nothing would have changed. Like, I guess she could have been there to make William more sympathetic as a villain. But then you get to the scene where he's like taunting Chris while he's turning into like the G monster. And any redemption for him goes out of the window, so he's not supposed to be sympathetic. So I don't know what Sherry's purpose in this movie is. The guy that was arrested in Resident Evil 2 for like almost whistleblowing Chief Irons, in this movie he's arrested because he was about to like whistleblow all of Umbrella. And like he knows what the T virus is and what the G virus is, so he knows that people are gonna turn into zombies. And he's in the cell with someone who's clearly infected. But when he's given a gun, he does nothing. Why did he do nothing if he knew that his cellmate was about to turn into a zombie? What the fuck? I think these actors could do good with these characters if they were actually written to be characters instead of just flesh walls. I can't even call them characters. They don't really develop at all. Which I probably should have expected because they tried to cram the entire stories of the first two games into one movie and it does not work. The ending is really breakneck. Like, when William Birkin turned into the G virus monster, or like the first phase of it, I was like, okay, we're in the middle of the movie. Turns out there were like 10 minutes left. They like defeat the first form of him, and then they find the train immediately. The train that like gets them out of Raccoon City before it explodes. And then the G virus form 2 comes out. And then they fight that one. And then it dies because Leon shoots a rocket at him. It's a very brief fight scene too. Like, Claire stabs it, and then Chris shoots a couple of the eyeballs, and then Leon instantly kills it with the rocket launcher that he found on the train. Okay. I don't know, man. This movie was bad. It was really bad. I'm trying to think of what else. Leon and Claire meet. Claire's character is not at all like the games, and usually that's not a problem with me. Like, for example, I like Iron Man 3, even though most people hate that movie because the Mandarin wasn't who they thought it was gonna be. Like, the dude from the comics, it was just a guy. I like that twist in Iron Man 3. So, like, clearly, as long as you change things, I'm fine with them if they're done right. In this movie, Claire is not really likable. I did not really enjoy Claire's character in this movie because in the movie, she's like, or in the game, she's like this college girl who's capable. She knows how to shoot a gun in the games, that's like well established. She's looking for Chris. She's going to Raccoon City by herself at first until she meets Leon. Like, she's very capable, but like she's very peppy and young, and is still very willing, but like is out of her depth, the same way Leon was in the game. But here, like, she's a badass. She knows how to use like machine guns, and she's very cold to everyone instead of like being very warm and inviting. And I don't really like that for her. Claire doesn't have to be a cold meanie. She can be friendly and inviting and still kick ass, you know? Like, if there's anyone that's gonna be like the person that's gonna be like, I'm gonna fuck shit up and do that, you still want that for one of your women character leads. Jill's right there. But instead, Jill is just a love interest for Wesker, kind of. Also, Chris has a crush on Jill, or at least it's implied. But like, no, that doesn't make sense. Because Chris can't continue the Redfield bloodline. That's Leon's job. I give that movie a 2 out of 10. Yeah.